Okay, today's the second video in panic attack mini series that we're doing. And basically, hopefully the wind's not too bad for this. Basically, we're talking about how you can end up with panic attacks, understanding them better, and then the best practices to be free of them. So in the last couple of videos we went over kind of understanding how the tension builds up in the body, physically and mentally, emotionally at different levels due to different stressors, which could be minor problems, they could be serious problems, they could be health issues, they could be other psychological issues. But what I want to stress is that is not of that much importance. You could have a big problem or you could have a big stressor in your life, and yes, that needs to be addressed, but the way I want to focus on this is not from the kind of backwards, not from sort of the back to the front of the problem, but the front of the problem to the back. This is like a frontline attack, the frontline treatment, and the frontline method to directly impact your mental health to end these panic attacks and to limit how they're hampering your life and making you uncomfortable, making you miserable, and that kind of thing. So the point is not to get at the issues behind what got you there so much as the kind of more general issues which are making it worse, the issues and the things that are keeping you stuck and making it seem worse than it is. So hopefully that makes sense. Essentially, to simplify it is, going and talking to someone about the fact that you're having panic attacks might give you relief in the moment, but that's not where you need to start. That's not where you start with the problem when this is happening, because that's not going to be the solution. That's better done later when you're in a much calmer, happier, more stable state of mind. That's the time to go maybe sort some of these things out, sort those other problems out. We always usually want to go, and our reaction is to tackle the whole problem, and try to solve it, and then think that is going to maybe solve some of these symptoms that come up, like the anxiety and the panic attacks and things like that. But the way to do this is to have a sort of a holistic intervention that can mitigate the anxiety and these panic attacks on the front end, so that you can be in a better spot to then reassess the problem, which might seem a lot less serious, or it might seem a lot more mild after you've kind of gotten free of some panic attacks, free of the panicking, and you're able to address it in a different way. All that to say is, these are pretty tactical things, and it's not very complex, and it might even sound kind of too simple or too stupid that it's not going to help. But these are the things that we're going to talk about probably in the next video. In terms of the actual tactics, we'll be getting to mitigate down these panic attacks so you don't have them. But I just wanted to stress that if you're stuck, the solution is not to figure out the depths of how this started happening. There could be so many different reasons and so many different factors. What you want is a frontline intervention that's going to make this stuff stop, so then you can take a better, more accurate assessment on your life. Because these anxiety, especially in an extreme state or state of panic, we talked about before, being so zoomed in on it that you don't have a full picture of what's going on. So if you're trying to solve a full picture issue, make a big move, it's just not the time, you're not in the place that you want to be doing that from. So the interventions that we're going to talk about are pretty lifestyle focused, in terms of sending your body signals of safety, as I heard someone say it, and loosening the tension, loosening the string. Now, one other kind of thing is, a lot of people have their panic attacks and anxiety connected to these issues, that just is what it is. But they can also distort these other issues, and they can distort the panic attacks. So they can connect the fear in the moment and the fear of the fear, like we talked about, the primary and secondary fear. They can connect that to a thought about an issue, and then that compounds. So then you've got, maybe it's an interpersonal problem or a family problem or whatever it is, and you've got that's playing against the physiological factor, which is just your sensitization, how tightly you're wound up mentally and emotionally and physiologically. So what's going to happen is it's going to play back and forth off the scared thought or the thing that happened to you, whatever it is. It's going to play back and forth, feed off each other, so it'll make the problem seem worse on the one hand, the life problem, and on the other hand, it's also going to exacerbate the anxiety and the panic attacks that way. So you've got to be able to separate that out, or just even understand that that's a distorted feedback loop there, and it's working against you. So the best thing you can do is start to mitigate those reactions. So on one hand, we're going to tackle the acute fear and pain and the anxiety that's happening and that you're experiencing, in kind of whatever way that's coming up. And then the other way is as that starts to wear off, and you can, even within a week, 5 days, you can have a pretty big impact on that, and significantly reduce the strength of your panic attacks and anxiety. So, and then what happens is that stops making the problem seem as bad. You can then work on the problem. That doesn't exacerbate the anxiety as much, and it's a positive feedback loop, and it works it back down the other way till you can resolve all this. And you really can resolve all this, even though you might seem super stuck. So that's kind of the qualifying info for how to move forward. We're not talking so much right now about getting to the root or what actually caused this. Just to be clear, this is more of a frontline measure. This is attacking the whole experience from a very practical point of view. It's not expensive. It doesn't take counseling or medication or anything like that. And maybe we'll talk about that later. But in the next video, we'll get into breaking down some pretty simple steps to impact this. And yeah, hopefully that gives you sort of the setup for how you go about separating this out in your mind, and just understanding that there's kind of two parts to this. There's the more complex issue side of things, which is based on your specific circumstances, and then there's the more general tactics that you can apply. But I want to stress that we get sucked into thinking that our situation's so much different, that the simple solutions aren't going to work for us, and that's kind of a lie that you're going to tell yourself because you think your situation's going to be a lot worse than someone else's, or no one's experienced it before, or it's a special kind of anxiety, or whatever it is. That's pretty common that you think, and it sounds funny, but if you've experienced it, then you know what I'm talking about. It'll seem like you're the first person in the world to ever be in this difficult spot, so no one has a solution for you. But that's a lie that the anxiety tells you, essentially, and you get bluffed, and it's pretty easy to believe that. So the thing to focus on here is going to be the simple tactics that we're going to get to in the next video. So hope this is helpful, and next up we'll get into the actual tactics that you can start putting into practice to get some results. Take care.